Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and a delight to have, yes, Miss Mood herself. Nisha Jackson's in the house from Ventana Wellness, and we're here to talk about moods. In case you don't have one, we'll get you one. Anyway, we all swing through them, but we're into, you know, Nisha, shorter days, longer nights,
yes,
more darkness than light.
Yes.
Is that a contributor?
It is. I think that we have to start thinking now about how we're going to feel come December and January, right?
Ah, vitamin D.
Right. You've actually been listening to me all of these years.
Not only that, but D3.
Exactly. Absolutely. If you start now optimizing your D levels and your vitamin B levels,
really,
getting your sleep, making sure that you're cleaning up your diet, these are some of the things we're going to talk about today.
I've done the diet thing, I've done the B thing, I'll start the D thing, but sleep, nah.
Yeah, you know, many people stop their vitamin D in the summer.
Yeah, I do.
Which, for a small percentage of the population, that's actually okay because they absorb through their skin. Mm-hmm. But I see people in my office all the time that come in with these beautiful tans, and their vitamin D levels are in the tank.
So is stress an eater of vitamin D?
Well, no, we don't think that stress has anything to do with vitamin D. The gut has something to do with vitamin D, which stress is kind of interrelated with the gut. But some people just don't absorb vitamin D through the skin like others, especially darker skinned people actually absorb it less. So if you've been off your vitamin D, I always tell people by October 1st, you should be back on your vitamin D and a good level. Don't be taking these real small levels of 400 international units or 1,000. You need to take more than that. Typically, people have to take 2,000 or more. A day. So if you start now, you can optimize your vitamin D levels before our days get really short, and you need that for your immune system. So if you can get your vitamin D level up, you know, the studies are still pretty clear that vitamin D is equally as important as the flu shot, or equally as effective as the flu shot. So, but you have to start now because it takes a while to get your levels up. Okay. So that's one of the things you can do for seasonal affective disorder.
All right. So, and what does that do to the mood?
And that brings your mood up. You know, it's kind of funny because we've correlated seasonal affective disorder, which is kind of like the winter blues, feeling like you don't want to get out of bed. Come January, you feel like you need to blow out of here and head straight to Mexico. You don't want to go to work. You've lost your enthusiasm. It is kind of a form of mild depression. So if you start eating more carbohydrates, that's another sign of seasonal affective disorder. So you start gaining weight, well, that makes you even more depressed, right? So you want to start now preparing for that so that you're really well equipped to come shorter days in January and February. So one of the things you can do is balance your neurobrain chemicals, which is really what I want to talk about today, because that is really where the mood lies, is balancing those neurobrain chemicals.
SAD.
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 It's really easy to remember because it's just SAD, seasonal affective. Affective disorder.
Okay, well, here we go. SAD, SAD, a new syndrome.
So don't be sad. Get your vitamin D up and start now preparing for the shorter days.
All right, talk to us about our brain.
Yes, so many people find themselves in a situation of feeling anxious or feeling like they don't have good focus or problems with not being able to sleep deep at night, or maybe just feeling mildly depressed or depressed. And I just want to make sure that people know that there's so many things that they can do on their own to head that off. And I think people, because maybe medicine has done this, feel a little powerless when it comes to a bad mood. Yeah. They feel like, well, this is just my life, this is just the way it is, or I just have to get on medication. And some people do need to be on medication, but a lot of us don't need to be on medication. We need to figure out what the problem is.
Good for you, because more shows I do with different psychological, ingredients, I'm amazed how many people are depressed.
Yes. Well,
overwhelmed.
Everything about our world sort of screams mood imbalance. If you think about it, we don't sleep as well as we should, which often is related to stress and our diet and too much going on in our head, not working out our body and throwing ourselves into bed at night and expecting us to sleep. We're not eating as well as we should because we're eating so many foods that are eroding our gut, which is where we absorb all the wonderful vitamins that keep our mood balanced. So there's all these like little connections that people don't even think about that they do have control over. And so I guess I just want to give people a little ray of hope today that there are things you can do about your mood. If you're feeling really snappy or irritable and it's not you, and you're finding yourself going around saying you're sorry to everybody because you're just a little on edge, there are things you can do to make that better. And it really depends on the brain chemical that maybe is off.
All right, one other little side note before you get into the deep stuff. Today's International Coffee Day. What does that have to do with our mood?
Cheers.
You are.
Cheers. International Coffee Day. You always have to drink when you say cheers.
Okay, because you are a totally black coffee person?
Yep. I'm afraid to say I've been drinking coffee for way too many years, but I'm not going to give it up, so.
There you go.
I don't put anything in it.
How do you guys feel now? You're
I
all
love
justified.
my coffee.
There you go. If Nisha does it, you can do it.
I'm not giving it up.
All right. Take us through the what we should do here.
So the first thing you want to do is you want to find out, there's some excellent tools that you can use to identify what neurobrain chemical you could be low in. So I would encourage people to go to one of my websites, which is balancedocs, DOCS.com. balancedocs.com, and there's a test that you can take on that website that will tell you what neurobrain chemical you're low in, and that would include serotonin, which is the one most people know about, which has a lot to do with depression and just feeling down and low. But it also has to do with the neurobrain chemicals like norepinephrine and endorphins and GABA. So you can go onto that site, take the test, and then you'll have a better idea of what neurobrain chemical you should be supporting. And one of the ways you can do that is through amino acids, which are very safe. They're byproducts of protein. You can buy them at the health food store. And if you find yourself, which many people do, taking the test and they're like, oh my word, I'm low in all of these things. So you certainly could take a multi-amino acid that would support those brain chemicals to get them up higher so that you can get better control of your mood. And that's just one of the things you can do, but it's so powerful. I even try to encourage people to do this, or we have a mood supplement in our office that is a multi-amino acid. I really try to encourage people to do this unless they're in crisis before they commit to a medication. Because the problem is the medications actually work really well for most people.
For a while.
For a while. And then often what happens is you have to change the dose, you have to add another medication with it, and 2 years down the road you're on 3 or 4 different medications, and then you're having side effects to all those medicines. Now again, sometimes that's important and it's helpful and it's life-saving. But many times we can head it off because people, it's just kind of what's going on in their life, and there are things that they can do to make a difference. So identifying the neurobrain chemical that you're low in first is the first step, I think, to helping your mood.
What's the best form of amino acids?
Well, amino acids can be taken in a capsule form. They can be taken in a liquid form. There's some excellent multi-amino acids that are in a liquid form, like Twin Labs puts out a good one that you can purchase even at the grocery store, at the health food section of the grocery store. The amino acid mood supplement that we have hits GABA, serotonin, and norepinephrine, those 3 neurobrain chemicals, which are very helpful for mood. But I often tell people too, this is a side note on neurobrain chemicals, is endorphins is something that's really important from a mood standpoint. And I wanted to touch on that today because I think so many people are not doing things that are releasing endorphins. So endorphins are like morphine-like chemicals, right, that make you feel really alive and happy and enthusiastic.
Go for a walk.
And there are activities that we can do, and I won't get into all of them on the show, but there are activities you can do. Laughter's one of them. Having a really good time and doing the things that you love helps you release endorphins. And can't you just sort of see where the world is today? We're not really doing enough of that. We're working, everything's in our head, we're stressed out, we're thinking about all the things we should have done, or we shouldn't have done, or we need to do. So I think that that's one key thing that people need to do is, you know, put in a movie that's funny. Go out with some friends and laugh. Do some more, you know, have a really special time with your loved one. I think that there's many things that you can do that release endorphins that we're not incorporating into our life every single day.
Boy,
so that's one thing that we need to do is get more joy and laughter and endorphins into our life.
Well, we just had a story today, 90 minutes of physical exercise for children. I say physical exercise where they're out running around improves their learning abilities.
Yes, because think about it, like if you're exercising and you're releasing endorphins, which that is the most common way to release endorphins into the system, especially when you're pushing yourself, like you're really getting that burst of energy and maybe working up to a sweat. That's a really simple, effective way at releasing endorphins. But if you think about it, when you release endorphins, your whole body just sort of decompresses. Like you just feel open and relaxed and happy. So imagine a child or even us trying to be learning something when we're in that state versus this clenched fist, tightening of the face, sort of like angst state. You can't learn. There's not enough blood flow in your brain, and you just are not opened up to learn. So I think that that's an interesting study and makes sense.
All right, let me take a quick break. We'll be back, and she'll finish it up on some things you can do to test your brain to see if you are in a good mood or stay in a good mood or get in a good mood. So have some coffee, take a walk, and we'll be right back, all right, with Nisha Jackson. VentanaWellness.com. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Paulina and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back, and of course, Nisha Jackson's with us today. We're talking about moods and good, healthy brain stuff. And you can check it all out at VentanaWellness.com. And what's the other one? Balance?
BalanceDocs.com. That's Balance, B-A-L-A-N-C-E, Docs, D-O-C-S.com. And that's where you can go and take the test to figure out what neurobrain chemical you're low in.
Okay, and if you're low in everything, call her.
Start driving south. No, I'm kidding.
All right, so obviously amino acids, you talked about D and B. What else can we do?
Yes, so one of the things I think, I try not to always circle back around to this, but it seems like I do it every single show, and you know what I'm going to say is sugar. I have to touch on this because this ties into seasonal affective disorder and eating too many processed carbohydrates and too many added sugars and too many artificial sweeteners. So yet one more study just came out that showed the very ill effects that are present with the use of artificial sweeteners. So one thing I want to drive home here is that for years I've been saying it's probably better if you just eat sugar rather than these artificial sweeteners, but I don't really know why I've told people that, but now I'm starting to understand. Maybe I'm just psychic, I don't know. These artificial sweeteners are an issue because now they've identified through research that just was done in the last month, or completed in the last month, these artificial sweeteners actually alter the bacteria in the gut. That doesn't sound like a big deal, right? But it is a big deal because it alters your body's ability to metabolize and process glucose, sugar. So what that means is that it leads directly to diabetes and obesity. And the problem is that it also alters our perception of sweetness. So if you take sugar and the sweetness of sugar, and then you take artificial sweeteners are anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 times more sweeter than regular sugar. So that alters our perception of sweetness, which means that our body, our chemistry actually changes, and that's what we need, is we need that level of sweetness, which makes us want to go for more of it. Our appetite goes up, our glucose metabolism goes down, and we start storing fat around the middle part of our body. So it's really not a good idea to have artificial sweeteners. There's absolutely zero place for them in the diet. So if you're eating artificial sweeteners and you're wondering why maybe you're not absorbing things as well, or you have gut problems, you have inflammatory issues, it could be absolutely 100% responsible. The artificial sweeteners could be responsible for that. So that is something pretty simple that you can do, is get artificial sweeteners out of your diet. And you know, these large food companies have put artificial sweeteners in everything, which really tricks the brain into thinking we want more of them. We want more food, and then we're not satisfied. So it leads to obesity not only because we're eating more food, but because it really is changing the bacteria in the gut, which alters our ability to absorb good vitamins.
Nisha, how do we fight this sugar addiction?
Well, you have to get it out of your diet, or you have to dramatically reduce it. And I think you just have to start literally one day at a time. Like, don't buy these foods. Read labels, see what's in them, get the artificial sweeteners out, try to get a lot of the flour out of your diet and the gluten out of your diet. And I don't think it's just about gluten. I think that's one of the things, but of course we've gone nuts on gluten already. So I think, and people are not eating gluten, but now they're still eating gluten-free flour, which still raises insulin. So I just think you have to be really careful about eating foods that God made, you know? Foods from the ground, foods that walk around, nuts and seeds, foods from the sea. It's really simple, you know, foods that have been unaltered. So I think we have to start one day at a time getting those foods in our diet. But I wanted to give that little blurb on artificial sweeteners because that's a new study and much worse than the last study. So cutting out the sugar, because sugar is a depressant. So why would you want to be depressed when you're already depressed? So cutting out the sugar is helpful. Eating breakfast first thing in the morning is really important. And I know you're so good at that, right, Perry? Yes, just say yes.
Yes.
So eating a protein in the morning, which stabilizes the blood sugar and gets you from one meal to the next, is also very important. So many people get up in the morning and they don't eat breakfast, or they're not having enough protein. And protein is really good for the brain, and that's where those amino acids come from, you know, the brain chemical stabilizers. So if you're eating a bunch of pasta and potatoes and crackers and cereals and breads during the day and you do not have enough protein in your diet, you will suffer a brain chemical imbalance and feel irritable and sad and depressed. So very simple thing to do. Again, food is medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So
those of us that get up at 0.30, what do we do?
Well, I think, you know, the research is pretty clear that you should try to eat within an hour of getting out of bed, something to get that blood sugar stabilized. So even if it's just, I think you were doing protein shakes for a while, or half of a protein bar to kind of get going, I think is good. I think also exercising on an empty stomach for most people is good. You can actually burn more calories, but then eating right afterwards is key if you do that first thing in the morning. Also, I wanted to touch on the importance of sleep.
I'm doing okay with that. I'm doing better.
You're pretty good about going to bed early.
Well, I just crash. I get up with the sun and go down with the sun.
Yeah. Well, the sun's changing, so.
I'm getting more sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So getting sleep is very important because that is the only time during the day that your brain can rejuvenate and make all of the necessary hormones and brain chemicals to keep you balanced the next day. So just think of sleep as restoring your brain chemicals, which will make you less irritable, less cranky, less sad, and better focus. So the other thing too is that many people are staying up for more than 20 hours at a time. I mean, if you count the hours, some people are not sleeping well at night, they're getting up early, they're staying up late, they're sort of burning the candle at both ends. And the research is really clear that if you're up for more than 20 hours at a time, you have the same level as somebody that is drunk. So cerebrally, so from a cognitive standpoint, your brain is operating as if you were drunk.
Wow.
So it's really important that you're not staying up that many hours, that you're getting your brain to restore and recover, and sleep is the best way to do that.
Well, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. I have no problem. I can sleep anywhere, anytime, any position.
Yes, well, I used to be better at it than I am now, but if I don't get 8 hours of sleep, I just can't function well at all. My brain doesn't work, and I'm more irritable, and my focus isn't as good. So I think that sleep is very
key. All right, back
key.
to the breakfast thing just for a moment.
Yes.
It's very important. There are a lot of alternatives to a full-blown breakfast, shakes and things like that, and yet they have sugar in them. What do you recommend?
Yes, so there's so many wonderful protein and carbohydrate. You need some carbohydrate. I'm not a believer in all protein diets. You have to have some good high fiber carbohydrates. So everybody's taste is different, but finding one that is sweetened with stevia would be a much better choice than something that's sweetened with aspartame or sucralose. So that would be my suggestion, is something that's sweetened with stevia, or not sweetened at all, and then you can add an apple to it or some berries to it to get that sweetness there.
Okay.
So that's what I would suggest.
And one other little quickie. What is this alcohol sugar thing? Should we pay attention to it?
Right. So sugar alcohols do not seem to affect the insulin level as much as sugar or artificial sweeteners, but it's still an artificial sweetener. So I still would stay away from sugar alcohols completely.
All right.
Stevia is really the only one I still can say is an acceptable sweetener to use.
Is it exceptionally sweet?
It is sweet, but it's not as sweet as the sucralose and the aspartame. So, but it's still sweet. It's still sweeter than sugar.
All right, but sugar is an addiction.
It is. So
is there anything that can help suppress that addiction?
Well, one of the things that I recommend is taking that test, because excessive cravings for sugar is related to your neurobrain chemicals that we were just talking about with the mood. So when somebody comes in that says, I am so addicted to sugar, I don't know what to do, I actually put them on a mood supplement, even though they may not be depressed or anxious. Cravings is directly related to often low serotonin levels. So just getting a supplement like the mood supplement we have in our office, or 5-HTP, which is a direct precursor to serotonin. Again, it's an amino acid. It's very safe to use. Getting those levels up so you have a little bit more support for the cravings. But people have to remember, as long as you're eating it, you will crave it. So I always say you got to do the 72 hours, no sugar for 72 hours. And that includes foods that turn to sugar quickly upon entering your mouth. So foods that are quick processed carbohydrates, like basically any flour. The white foods turn to sugar. So, and that includes any flour because they're quick carbohydrates. The higher the fiber, the slower the release of sugar. And if you add protein to it, it's even slower. So it slows down the release of sugar, which is key.
Higher the fiber, slower the release, and add protein to it, and it slows it down.
High fiber and protein is a better combination than eating a cookie on an empty stomach.
Okay.
So have some cottage cheese first, I guess, if you're going to have a cookie to get that protein up.
No, that's good stuff. All right, where does water come in?
Water is very important, of course, for really any health problem. Hydration is key, and hydration is key going into the winter months. Your son, Andy, just said, make sure you talk about this on the radio, hydration in the winter, because people don't think about drinking water when it's cold outside. But those are the months that often we're the most dehydrated. So if your brain's a little fuzzy and you're feeling that afternoon fatigue, drink a large glass of water, because that most likely will pick you right back up again. If you're doing any sports outside, again, people aren't thinking drinking water because it's cold, but you have to have it.
These sports drinks, these Gatorades and things, haven't they got a lot of sugar in it?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of them are pure sugar, like 42 to 62 grams of sugar per drink. Yeah, that's like 10 teaspoons of sugar.
Whoa.
Like, just imagine putting 10 teaspoons of sugar in a drink and then saying, ooh, yummy, I'm going to drink it.
Wow.
That's disgusting.
Ooh.
Terrible. And then you're hungry all day long. You're craving and you're hungry. So just watch labels, and just remember, 1 teaspoon of sugar is 4 grams of sugar. So every time you read a label that says 4 grams of sugar, it's equivalent to 1 teaspoon. Wow.
Wow.
So you can get up there pretty easily.
All right, VentanaWellness.com, or you want to take this little test, BalanceDocs, DOCS.com, and take the little test there and see what you're deficient in, and then call Nisha.
It'll actually tell you what you should do. If you take the test, it'll tell you what supplement you should use.
Really?
To get that neurobrain chemical up. But remember, there's many things you can do on your own. Diet, sleep, exercise, having more joy in your life, getting those endorphin levels up, starting to laugh more, be with friends, taking a time out is also very key.
Wonderful. Thanks, Nisha.
You're welcome.
All right, VentanaWellness.com or BalanceDocs.com. Take the test and then call Nisha. All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us. or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. Well, it's always an honor to have with us Jordan Sekulow. He is the Executive Director of American Citizen for Law and Justice, and he's a regular guest here on the Dove, and we want to say thanks for his time. And Jordan, good to see you, my friend. I know you're busy, but we value the few moments you give us. How you doing?
Hey, thanks, Perry. Thanks for having me.
Well, listen, 2-year anniversary now of Pastor Abedini's incarceration. In fact, special prayer all over the country. We actually had a prayer vigil here in Southern Oregon for him. How's he doing?
You know, he's hanging in there. It's a difficult time now that he's marked, 2 years in prison. And you can think about, as I was with Naghmeh Abedini and Franklin Graham, actually, in Washington, D.C. a few days ago, as we kicked off the over 600 prayer vigils that happened. Let me thank the people who were at the prayer vigil that you had right there, because it takes every one of those to kind of get to those numbers, and also the attention that it brings to the case, along with, of course, the power of prayer that we believe in. His medical condition still, in a tough spot. Is not back in a hospital, still is in a prison, Raja Shar, and is actually facing some new threats from members of the Islamic State who were arrested by the Iranians, have been apprehended by the Iranians because the Iranians are Shia and the Islamic State is Sunni. And so even though they are both, Iran a state sponsor of terrorism and the Islamic State a terrorist organization, that you've actually got a situation where they're fighting each other. And so these fighters who were in the same prison as Saeed have made threats on his life. So there's these new concerns. Basically, anything that's happening in this region ends up affecting Saeed. And so while we had the UN General Assembly and we know our leaders were meeting with the Iranian officials and there's key dates coming up in the next couple of months, we always have those two goals. One is to keep him alive, and the second is to ultimately get him home. I think the nuclear negotiations have certainly complicated things even more so when it comes to his release.
How do you connect with him? How are you getting in contact with him?
So he still has family in Iran, and one of the key issues has always been visitation. Mm-hmm. And there have been times when he's been denied that. But because of the U.S. engagement with Iran on the nuclear issue, they are doing a lot, Perry, to make sure on some basic things. One of those is the visitation. So the family is able to visit about once a week, and that's the only way we get the information. And so he was able, we released last week a letter that he had written to his daughter. He's able to get that to family members who can see him in these visitations. And so that's basically how we get the information. So it's usually weekly. Now, when he was in the hospital, his family got to be around a lot more, and that was a couple of months ago, and he was there for about 6 weeks. So that was when we really got to put together the full scope of what had happened over at that time about the last couple of years. So, it's a situation. He's missed birthdays. His kids are, who I've spent a lot of time with throughout this process, are now 8 and 6 years old, 8-year-old daughter, 6-year-old son. They're, the birthdays are going by, holidays are going by, and they're getting to that age where they really realize what's going on. At first, when this happened, we didn't put them in any of kind of the what was going out there, because they were at an age where it wasn't really the right thing to do. Now they know they figured out there's something bigger at stake here, and so the impact it has on the family as well is huge. And so I think that we're doing everything we can. We working at the United Nations and of course with our government here.
Well, Jordan, is there any movement by this administration? I mean, it seems like the president and the secretary of state are constantly silent when it comes to Saeed.
Yeah, I mean, they make their statements. There was a positive statement by Secretary Kerry last month about Saeed, and he actually praised Naghmeh, Saeed's wife, and her advocacy. And I will tell you, she's a tireless advocate. I think we did probably, along with the vigil that we did with Reverend Graham here in Washington, and the radio interviews and things like that, I think, in a couple of days with her kids here, we're talking about a woman who has traveled the world advocating for her husband. And so the Secretary of State, John Kerry, even acknowledged that. And what the key is that in these negotiations with Iran, and this is something we've been very clear about, Senator Ted Cruz wrote a new op-ed today that's out in Politico magazine about this as well. The idea that we cannot continue these negotiations with Iran until the Americans, like Saeed, Amir Hekmati and a Washington Post journalist who was recently arrested are returned. So it's not to say that the U.S. government, no one's saying they can't have the negotiations at all. But how about we let the Iranians know clearly that, we're not going to get sanctions relief, and we're not going to keep going to the table, spending days and hours, months, and weeks and months, and possibly years in these nuclear negotiations while you're holding our citizens basically hostage to those negotiations. And so we have to deal with the very real situation here geopolitically, and that's that a nation which has not had a diplomatic relationship with Iran since 1979 and their revolution is now sitting at the table. Some can see that as positive. And the positive that come from that, Perry, are that when there are issues at the prison, the U.S. government has been able to communicate that to the Iranian officials directly. They don't have to go through back channels. And we've seen some positive impact there. So I don't want to take any impact away from what the U.S. government's been able to do. But it does not seem, and I hope I'm wrong, and I hope I'm surprised and that this statement's not accurate, but as I want to tell people as best I know, that this is a top priority for the U.S. government. The nuclear negotiations seem like priority one, and then there's a big gap, and then you get down to the Americans who are being held and detained by Iran and charged with serious crimes and serious sentences and have been punished in ways, not just their sentence, but the way they've been treated physically and psychologically. And so, we just have to keep praying. We have to keep working. And it was, I think, very encouraging for all of us and for Saeed's family to see the outpouring of support 2 years into this from people all over the world. There were vigils, over 600 vigils total, and in 39 countries and territories. So it was very different than what we even had the year before. Wow.
Given the recent beheadings of people, I mean, you would think that the intolerance from these terrorists as it relates to Christianity is at an all-time high. That could be a little scary. But on the other hand, you have all of these prayer vigils going on. I mean, this is really a spiritual war here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was actually yesterday on Fox News early in the morning talking about the beheading in Oklahoma. And the idea here that is it terrorism in the classic sense of the term? Was he coordinating with a terrorist organization? We don't know that yet. But even if that wasn't happening, this was someone who was extremely sympathetic. And one of the reasons why these groups like the Islamic State put out these videos, horrific videos, is not just to try to scare us. And they're not scaring the U.S. armed forces from fighting. I mean, that's the bottom line truth. But it is gruesome. It is very tough. And, of course, it makes news. But also, it's to inspire. That was the name of the Al-Qaeda magazine that told the Boston bombers how to build those pressure cooker bombs. This is these kind of images, though it's horrifying to most of us, and that's a normal response. There are some people out there that this triggers, and whether they're angry at their work and they converted to Islam in a prison and they've got kind of tough records, the idea that they see this imagery now all of a sudden they're beheading people instead of what may have been quote, and it's not nice to say, but normal workplace violence versus Islamic terror-inspired workplace violence.
Wow. So where do we go from here? Keep praying. What else?
Well, we've got a lot of work coming up in the next 6 weeks, and we've got teams all over the world. We have a team right now. I just got an email from them. They met with the Vatican yesterday. We have a on-site situation, and the Vatican played a key role along with Italy in the release of Miriam Ibrahim, which Naghmeh Abedini, Pastor Saeed's wife, spoke with at a dinner Saturday night in Washington, D.C. And so they both were speakers on the persecuted church. The UN just released a report. It's the UN Human Rights Council, and this is pretty rare, that Saeed is illegally been detained, so he's illegally imprisoned, and that he must be released and then compensated for every day he's been in prison. Now, we're not holding out hope that Iran is ever going to do that, but it's a big deal that the UN Human Rights Human Rights Council did that. We're going to keep working here in Washington, working with the State Department, working with members of Congress. They're engaged on this as well, and we need everybody out there to keep praying, keep sharing those stories. I think if they did go out to a prayer vigil and prayed for Saeed and the persecuted church, and just to keep working on this.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Thanks for all that you do there at American Center for Law and Justice and ACLJI. Let me encourage you to go to their website and support what they do. Thanks, my friend. Keep us in touch on this and let us know. We'll certainly continue to pray, but keep us updated and let us know on any of the other hot issues. Thanks, man, for what you guys do back there.
Will do. Thanks, Perry.
All right,
Thanks
talk to you soon. All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and as always, exciting to have Cyndi Bright with us. She's the executive director of the Pregnancy Center here in Medford, and they got their big annual event coming up a week from Thursday. That's coming up October 9th. You Are the Light. It's their fundraising banquet, and I understand you still have a few seats available.
We do, and we will take seat reservations up until the hour of the banquet. If people are interested in coming, we could throw an extra chair, the table seat 10, but we've had 11 and 12 of them before. So they're always welcome to come, and we're so excited.
You got who's your guest speaker?
We have Pastor Barnabas Sprinkle. He is a pastor at Westminster Presbyterian. And
he's very passionate.
Oh my goodness!
Passionate about this.
He is. I believe he's from Atlanta, and when he was a pastor there, they were very involved with the pregnancy center there. So, a lot of churches around the community are doing the ice bucket challenge.
Yeah.
And it has been thrilling to attend, thrilling to watch their faces. I just saw one Rogue Valley Fellowship did. And those pastors are sitting there, and that ice hits them, and woo, we haven't seen that face in the pulpit. A lot of fun.
I just want to say to our viewers and listeners, if you are passionate about helping girls with their pregnancy and saving babies, the Pregnancy Center here in Rogue Valley is one of the best. And Cyndi heads up an incredible team. And they do so many things. Let's go through the list. You have the ultrasound. Start from there and work your way around.
We do medically graded pregnancy testing. And then once that shows positive, we ask the young woman if she'd like to have an ultrasound. And we're looking to make sure that there's cardiac activity, that the baby is in the right location, and that we can give them an estimated date of delivery, which in some situations can determine who the father is. Then we tell them all about our programs. We have Earn While You Learn, which is a program they come to weekly. Every hour, we're having 2 to 3 girls coming in and meeting with the same mentor that day an hour. Those classes, we have 188 classes right now, and they go from pregnancy all the way into parenting. Talks about discipline, how to avoid sudden infant death syndrome, which now, when we had our children, they were all laying on their tummies. Now they lay on their back, and what they want the crib to look like. They talk about healthy and unhealthy relationships, and they earn mommy money and daddy dollars. And they take those coupon money, and they shop in our parent pantry, which is loaded because of the community that we live in, the very generous people who bring in diapers and wipes. We even have formula. There's pregnancy clothes, and there's clothing for the baby to 12 months. So we'll follow the baby and her parents all the way for the first year of the baby's life.
Wow.
We have convertible car seats. They go from 5 to 40 pounds. We've written a grant this year for that, and the Anna May Foundation has helped us with that. Cheney Foundation, Family Foundation, has helped us do our new Moms Club, which is, I call it 5 weeks of boot camp. So we're in the 3rd week. They come on Saturdays. All these women are due around the same time. They have a lot in common, and they may not have given each other the time of day outside of the class, but they start sharing. They ask questions. Of course, as the weeks go on, they become more friendly. This next week, we're having infant CPR, and the mannequins will be there, and they'll be able to practice infant CPR. You know how hard you push on an adult. Well, you've got to give it a really good 2-finger push. They'll also have techniques if they're choking, which is so important. You hope you never have to use it, but man, you want to be prepared. So that ends up with a baby shower, with a luncheon, and baby bag, and that car seat, which is so important. Tiny testaments with their baby's name in it. Pink for girls, blue for boys. We write in them, we pray over them, and blankets. The community blankets us with beautiful quilts and crocheted blankets. And there's a company in town, Linen Barn. They'll take our quilts and they'll put the baby's first name on it, and the girls, they see those and they grab it, and it's the first time they really see their baby's name, and they love it. Wow. Yeah, it's just such a rewarding program, because they really walk out of that class just in tears, thanking us for the items and for the classes. And we have everybody do reviews, so we take that very seriously. So we go, how can we make this class better? So it's the sheriff's department comes and does takes our car seats, convertible car seats, and does a training, gives each girl like a coupon, and they can make an appointment and have a 30-minute installation in the car that they're going to drive, with all the straps to hold the car seat in and the straps to hold the baby in.
Wow, and that's just really kind of scratching the surface there. I got a lot out of that little round robin thing there. First of all, I think it's a subtle reminder that all those things you give away have to be stockpiled. So if you're out driving around, buy some diapers and take it over there. Buy some wipes, take it over there. Maybe you have some beautiful quilts you're not using anymore. Take them over there. And then help that pantry and just pack it up. I've been in there and I've seen it jammed to the door, but it doesn't last long. It's material in, material out, you know.
Right. We have had more clients in the last 6 months than ever before, because they're closing programs. So one of the things we also adopted is the GED program.
I was going to ask you about that.
For our girls, and I've had phone calls from all different agencies, and they're saying they don't carry it at this place. They're not doing it at Central High. They've changed it, and our girls, our guys get in. They have to be a pregnant woman. We're still, that's our mission statement. We have to funnel everything through our mission statement. So this program has become very popular in our valley, but we seem to be one of the few that is doing it at no cost for our girls.
Wow.
So if they are out of high school, they can contact us if they're pregnant, and we will get them in the GED program. We still have positions for that.
When do you sleep?
I sleep very well.
Well, let me encourage you. One way you can support them is to get a ticket and go to their wonderful annual fall banquet. They have a silent auction from about 5:30 to 7, then the dinner and the program from 7 till 9. It's a wonderful program, very challenging, and the testimonies, my stars, they are just out of this world. So call them. You can go to 772-1921, and that's the office there at the Pregnancy Center. Again, that's area code 541-772-1921. And if you're interested in getting a ticket for the banquet coming up a week from Thursday, so that's coming up October 9th, let me encourage you to do that. And the least of which, and you hear Cyndi, you see her a lot here because we believe in what she's doing. And if you're out driving around and you're shopping and you happen to go down the aisle accidentally and there's a bunch of diapers there. Well, it wasn't accidental.
That's right.
Reach over and grab a box of those, no matter what size, and get it over to them. And now the car seat thing is kind of interesting because the rules keep changing on that. So you almost have to have the latest ones, don't you?
Right, and every car seat has molded in it a date where it will be no longer good.
Yeah.
So we used to take secondhand, but we can't assure that it was not in an accident. Yeah. So we just do brand new car seats, and the convertible ones are the way to go.
Okay. So look for that. Wipes, clothing, blankets. What else do you need?
We really need diapers right now.
Really?
Diapers and wipes. Those are the two big things right now. Like I said, our numbers have drastically increased. We need volunteers. We're going to do a training after the banquet. There is life after the banquet. And we're going to do a training, and we are looking for women with a passion to serve God who want to be that older woman who is taking younger women into their care, praying for them, and being a participant in their life, because mentors mean so much. And we do all the training. We make sure you feel comfortable. There's shadowing that they do in the office. So we work very hard to make sure they feel confident. Sometimes they end up being a receptionist for a while and say, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. I know the programs. I'm ready to go. So if you're interested, give us a call. Sunny will be doing the class. She's a retired teacher. She is excellent. I have excellent staff. Carissa and Sunny run the front, and they have really taken to heart and to love these young women and to do what we can in every area to make sure their needs are met.
Cyndi, you said you're having more activity, more clients this year. So what do you average in a year, girls?
Well, last year we had over 1,800 appointments. 1,800. That was like 253 women that came one time for pregnancy testing or came for ultrasound. We're already above that. So we are just moving forward and praying that the mentors come in. If the programs are closing, God's opened the door for us.
Right.
And we get that opportunity to bring the gift of salvation and offer it to them. And they get that opportunity to receive it into their hearts. We had a client last week, actually, who came in, very hard situation. She decided she had already had an abortion. She wanted to give this child up for adoption. And the mentor chatted with her and talked to her about the Lord. Tomorrow we have a Bible study, the mentor said. You should come because I think you'd find real peace. She came. Denise is leading it. She talked to her about salvation. She accepted Christ. We gave her a Bible.
Wow.
And she came the next week. This last week she came again. So she's been 2 weeks walking with the Lord, and we just keep praying for her. She's got a horrible situation at home, but you know, with God, we'll watch the doors open.
Well, if some of the counselors and the mentors could talk what they hear, it would be heart-wrenching. Some of the situations that some of these girls find themselves in and coming out of, or literally trapped in.
Right.
And the pregnancy center becomes their avenue of hope to change life. And in that, through their service, through their love, through their gifting of all of these needed items, it's the hands of Christ into these girls' lives, and then, of course, ultimately leading them to salvation. It's so many things going on there. I mean, from servicing the need to witnessing to maturing, and I mean, it's just all going on at the same time. I don't know how you keep it all straight.
It's a juggle, but everyone is very specific in what they're doing. I was talking to Daniel, and he was telling me his daughter just started junior high, and we just had a 14-year-old in. So starting younger and younger, guys.
Younger and younger.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, here, if you want to support them on the banquet, it's coming up a week from this Thursday. That is October 9th. Boy, I tell you, let me encourage you to go. Let's fill it up. Let's pack it out. It's at the Country Club, and it's you can call them at 772-1921. Let me encourage you to prayerfully consider investing an evening there and hearing the testimonies and see what God would have you do to get involved in the ministry. 772-1921. Call Cyndi or a staff member. Get a couple of tickets, take a friend, and go and be a part of a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you again, Cyndi, for all that you do. Keep up the good work. And let's pack out the banquet coming up on October 9th. Okay, that number one more time, 772-1921. Give them a call.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.